The manila folder had been in the bottom drawer of Olivia Chen's desk for 11 months, hidden beneath old employee handbooks and outdated office supply catalogues that no one would ever bother to look through. She checked it every morning when she arrived. Still there, still sealed, still containing the truth that could destroy everything she'd built over the past 18 months at Meridian Tech. On a grey Tuesday morning in November, Olivia sat at her desk reviewing quarterly reports, trying to focus on profit margins and market projections instead of the growing knot of anxiety in her stomach. The office was unusually quiet. Half the staff was at the annual tech conference in San Francisco, including her direct supervisor and most of the executive team. Everyone except Ethan Castellano, the CEO, had remained behind, citing too much work and too little patience for networking events. Olivia had been both relieved and nervous about his presence. Relieved because it meant someone competent was running things while everyone else was gone. Nervous because Ethan had a way of seeing things others missed, of asking questions that cut straight to the uncomfortable truth. Olivia, Grace, Ethan's assistant, appeared at her cubicle entrance, her expression apologetic. "Mr. Castellano needs the Harrison contract files. He said you were handling the renewal." "I am. But those files are in Sarah's office." Olivia stood, grabbing her access card. "She's at the conference, but I have her key. Give me 5 minutes." "Actually, he needs them now. He's on a call with Harrison's legal team, and they're asking about specific clauses." Grace winced. "I know it's a pain, but you know how he gets when people are waiting." Olivia did know. Ethan Castellano ran Meridian Tech with precision and efficiency, expecting nothing less from his staff. In 18 months, she'd learned to anticipate his needs, to have information ready before he asked for it, to exceed every expectation he set. It was exhausting. It was also the only way to ensure he never looked too closely at her background. "I'll bring them right up," Olivia promised, already heading toward the elevators. Sarah's office was on the executive floor, 3 levels above Olivia's cubicle in the marketing department. The space was dark and quiet. Most of the executive's assistants having accompanied their bosses to San Francisco, Olivia unlocked Sarah's door and went straight to the filing cabinet where contract renewals were kept, except the Harrison file wasn't there. Olivia checked twice, then pulled out her phone to text Sarah, before remembering that her supervisor was probably in a conference session with her phone silenced. She tried the other likely locations: Sarah's desk drawers, the credenza, the inbox on top of the filing cabinet. Nothing. Her phone buzzed. "Grace, he's asking for an ETA. Harrison's lawyer is getting impatient." Olivia's heart sank. The Harrison contract was worth $3 million annually. Losing it because she couldn't locate the file would be catastrophic. Then she remembered 2 weeks ago she'd been reviewing the Harrison terms with Sarah, and they'd taken the file down to Olivia's desk to compare it with similar contracts. Sarah had been called into an emergency meeting and had told Olivia to hang on to it until the next day. But the next day Sarah had been out sick, and by the time she returned they'd both forgotten about it. The file was in Olivia's desk, in her locked bottom drawer, the drawer where she kept the manila folder she never wanted anyone to see. Olivia stood frozen in Sarah's office, panic rising. She could run down to her desk, grab the Harrison file and bring it straight up. Simple, except Grace had said Ethan needed it now, and the round trip would take at least 10 minutes. If she told Grace where it was, Grace could retrieve it faster. But that meant giving someone access to her locked drawer. That meant risking exposure of the secret she'd protected so carefully. Her phone buzzed again. "Grace, Olivia, he's really pushing. Should I tell him you can't find it?" The thought of disappointing Ethan, of being the reason a major contract renewal was delayed, made Olivia's decision for her. She typed quickly. "It's in my desk, bottom drawer. I have the key in my bag here. Can you ask building security to open it? It's urgent." Grace's response was immediate. On it, Olivia sagged against Sarah's desk, telling herself it would be fine. Grace would grab the Harrison file from the top of the drawer's contents and never look beneath it. Building security wouldn't care what else was in there. The manila folder would remain hidden, untouched, safe. She made herself go through Sarah's office one more time, checking every possible location for the Harrison file just to be absolutely certain. By the time she admitted defeat and headed back downstairs, 20 minutes had passed when Olivia reached her cubicle. Her bottom drawer was closed but not locked, and the Harrison file was gone. Grace must have already taken it upstairs, Olivia's hands shook slightly as she unlocked the drawer fully and checked its contents. The employee handbooks were slightly disarranged. The supply catalogues had been moved, and the manila folder was exactly where she'd left it. Sealed and untouched, Olivia exhaled shakily, closing the drawer and locking it again. Crisis averted. Her secret was still safe. "Ms. Chen," the voice came from directly behind her, and Olivia nearly jumped out of her skin. Ethan Castellano stood 3 feet away, his expression unreadable. The Harrison file in one hand and a manila folder in the other. Her manila folder. Olivia's vision tunneled. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. "My office," Ethan said quietly. "Now." The walk to the executive floor felt like a death march. Ethan didn't speak, didn't look at her, just walked with that purposeful stride that made people instinctively move out of his way. Olivia followed, her mind racing through explanations, excuses, desperate plans to salvage this disaster. Ethan's office was all glass and steel, with a view of downtown Seattle that usually took Olivia's breath away. Today, she barely noticed it. He closed the door behind them, engaged the privacy setting that frosted the glass walls, and set both folders on his desk. "Sit," he said, not unkindly. Olivia sat, her hands clenched in her lap, waiting for the axe to fall. Ethan leaned against his desk, arms crossed, studying her with those sharp hazel eyes that seemed to see straight through every defense she'd ever built. "I went down to retrieve the Harrison file myself. Grace was dealing with another crisis and I was tired of waiting." He gestured to the manila folder. "When I opened your drawer, this was on top. The seal was already broken." "I can explain," Olivia started. "The seal was already broken," Ethan repeated, and Olivia's stomach dropped. She'd sealed that folder 11 months ago and hadn't opened it since. If the seal was broken, that meant... "I thought it might be another contract file," Ethan continued. "I opened it." He paused, his expression still carefully neutral. "So why don't you tell me why my marketing coordinator has been keeping a file containing evidence of systematic financial fraud by our chief financial officer hidden in her desk for what appears to be nearly a year?" Olivia couldn't breathe. The room spun around her. This was it. The moment she'd been dreading, the moment when everything she'd sacrificed, everything she'd risked, came crashing down. "I was going to report it," she whispered. "I was waiting for the right time, for enough evidence. For what?" Ethan's voice was sharp now. "For Marcus to embezzle more money, for the fraud to get worse, for the company to collapse," he pushed off from the desk. And Olivia flinched instinctively, hating herself for the reaction. Ethan stopped immediately, his expression shifting to something that might have been concern. "I'm not going to hurt you." "Olivia, I'm trying to understand why you've been sitting on evidence of corporate fraud instead of bringing it to me." "Because I didn't know if I could trust you," Olivia said, the truth escaping before she could stop it. "Because the last time I reported financial fraud, I was the one who got destroyed for it." Silence fell like a hammer. Ethan stared at her, and Olivia watched understanding dawn across his face. "Your previous employment," he said slowly. "The gap in your resume that you explained as freelancing, that wasn't freelancing, was it?" Olivia's eyes burned, but she refused to cry. "Not here, not in front of him. I was a junior analyst at Hartwell Financial. I discovered that my direct supervisor was manipulating client accounts, moving money around, taking commissions on trades that never happened, falsifying reports. I reported it to HR and to the executive team." "And," Ethan prompted when she didn't continue. "And my supervisor was the founder's nephew. They investigated me instead, accused me of trying to cover my own mistakes by blaming someone else. I was fired for cause, blacklisted in the industry, and spent 2 years fighting off a lawsuit they filed against me for defamation." Olivia's voice was hollow. "By the time the truth came out and the fraud was finally proven, I was broke, unemployable, and had a reputation as a troublemaker who made false accusations. No one in finance would touch me." "So you pivoted to marketing," Ethan said quietly. "I pivoted to anything that would pay my rent. Marketing was what stuck." Olivia met his eyes directly, tired of hiding. "I've been good at it. I work hard, I produce results, and I don't cause problems. That's why when I discovered what Marcus was doing," she gestured to the folder, "I didn't know what to do, report it and risk being destroyed again, or keep quiet and be complicit in fraud. So you documented it, Ethan said, picking up the folder. Quietly, thoroughly, waiting for, the right moment, someone you could trust. I don't know, Olivia admitted. Maybe I was just scared. Maybe I was a coward. You're not a coward. Ethan's voice was firm. Cowards don't spend 11 months collecting evidence against a C-suite executive who could destroy their career. Cowards run. You stayed and documented everything. He opened the folder, scanning the contents. This is comprehensive: bank statements, emails, fabricated expense reports, wire transfers to shell companies. How did you even access half of this? Olivia's cheeks flushed. I may have exceeded my authorization level on a few database queries, and I might have borrowed Marcus's login credentials once when he left his computer unlocked. That's technically corporate espionage, Ethan said, but there was no heat in it. He continued reading, his expression growing darker. He's stolen at least 2 million, possibly more. 2.3 million, Olivia corrected quietly. As of last month, I stopped checking after that. It felt too dangerous. Ethan looked up at her, and Olivia couldn't read his expression. Why marketing? With your financial analysis skills, you could have— No one would hire me in finance, Olivia interrupted. I told you, I was blacklisted. Olivia Chen, the girl who cried fraud, the troublemaker, the liar. Her voice broke on the last word. I had to rebuild from scratch, and marketing was the only field where my tainted reputation didn't follow me. Until now, Ethan said softly. Olivia's heart sank. Until now, she agreed. So what happens next? You report Marcus, and I lose my job for breaking a dozen company policies to get that evidence. Or you fire me to avoid the complication, and Marcus keeps stealing until someone else notices. Neither, Ethan said, setting down the folder. What happens next is you tell me everything, every detail, every suspicion, everything that's not in this file. Then we build an airtight case against Marcus that doesn't require illegally obtained evidence, and then we destroy him. Olivia stared at him. What? You heard me. Ethan returned to his desk, opening his laptop. I'm not firing you, Olivia. I'm promoting you effective immediately. You're my special assistant for financial operations. Your job is to work with me and our legal team to investigate Marcus's activities through proper channels. We'll use your documentation as a roadmap, but we'll gather everything legally. Why would you do that? Olivia whispered. Why would you trust me after what I just told you, after how I got this information? Ethan looked at her, really looked at her, and Olivia saw something in his expression she'd never seen before. Respect, mixed with something that might have been admiration. Because you did the right thing even when it cost you everything last time, he said simply. Because you've been protecting this company at personal risk for 11 months, and because— He paused, something vulnerable flickering across his features. Because I know what it's like to be punished for doing the right thing, to have your integrity questioned because it's easier than admitting the powerful person was wrong. What happened to you? Olivia asked before she could stop herself. That's a conversation for another time. Ethan's expression shuttered. Right now we have work to do. Are you in, Olivia? Will you help me take down Marcus the right way? Olivia thought about the past 2 years, the shame, the fear, the careful rebuilding of a life that had been shattered. She thought about the manila folder she'd hidden for 11 months. Too scared to act but unable to ignore what she knew, she thought about Ethan's offer. The trust implicit in it, the risk he was taking on her. I'm in, she said. But if this goes wrong, if I lose everything again— You won't, Ethan interrupted. Not this time, not on my watch, I promise you that. Olivia wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that this time would be different, that speaking up wouldn't destroy her, but experience had taught her that promises were easy to make and harder to keep. Still, looking at Ethan's determined expression, at the way he'd believed her story without hesitation, at how he'd called her brave instead of stupid, maybe, just maybe, it was worth the risk. Okay, she said quietly. Let's do this. Ethan smiled, and it transformed his usually serious face into something warm and reassuring. Good. Now, start from the beginning. Tell me exactly how you discovered Marcus's fraud. And Olivia did for the first time in 11 months. She let herself speak the truth out loud, trusting someone else to hear it. It felt terrifying and liberating in equal measure. She had no idea that this moment, This decision to trust Ethan Castellano would change everything, not just about Marcus's fraud, but about her life, her future, and the carefully protected heart she'd been guarding for far too long. For the next 3 weeks, Olivia's life transformed into something unrecognizable. Her cubicle on the 3rd floor was replaced by a small office adjacent to Ethan's, with a door that locked and a view that almost rivaled his. Her new title, Special Assistant for Financial Operations, raised eyebrows throughout Meridian Tech, but the carefully crafted cover story held she was being promoted for her analytical skills to help streamline departmental budgets. Only 3 people knew the real reason: Ethan, Olivia, and Jennifer Walsh, the company's external legal counsel who'd been brought in under the guise of a routine compliance audit. "This is remarkable work," Jennifer had said during their first meeting, reviewing Olivia's documentation. "Reckless and probably inadmissible in court, but remarkable. You have a gift for financial analysis, Mrs. Chen." "A gift that got me fired and blacklisted," Olivia had replied bitterly. "A gift that's about to save this company millions and put a criminal behind bars," Ethan had corrected. "Now let's figure out how to prove everything Olivia found through legal channels." The days blurred into exhausting routine. Olivia would arrive at 7 before most of the staff and work until 8 or 9 at night. She combed through financial records, flagged suspicious transactions, and helped Jennifer map out the paper trail that would prove Marcus's guilt without revealing that they'd started with illegally obtained evidence. Ethan was there for all of it, working alongside her with the same intense focus he brought to everything. Olivia learned his tells, the way he rubbed his temple when frustrated, how he loosened his tie when deep in concentration, the quiet that meant he'd found something significant. She also learned things she hadn't expected, that he took his coffee black, but kept honey in his desk for tea on stressful days, that he'd built Meridian Tech from nothing over 12 years, sacrificing relationships and personal life for the company's success, that his younger sister had died in a car accident 5 years ago, and he still couldn't talk about it, without his voice going rough. "Why are you telling me this?" Olivia had asked one night, when they were alone in his office reviewing expense reports, and he'd suddenly started talking about Sophie. "Because you told me your truth," Ethan had said simply. "Seems only fair to share mine." It was dangerous, this growing intimacy. Olivia tried to maintain professional boundaries, to remember that Ethan was her boss, and this was temporary, that once Marcus was dealt with, she'd likely return to marketing, and things would go back to normal. But normal felt increasingly impossible when she spent 12 hours a day in close quarters with a man who saw her, really saw her, in ways no one had before. "You're doing it again," Ethan said one Thursday evening, pulling Olivia from her thoughts. They were in his office, reviewing the timeline Jennifer had built for presenting their case to the board. "Doing what?" "That thing where you disappear into your head and come back looking worried." Ethan set down his pen. "What's wrong?" "Nothing, just tired." "Olivia," Ethan's voice was patient but firm, "we've been working together for 3 weeks. I know your tells now, so what's actually wrong?" Olivia hesitated, then decided honesty had worked so far. "I'm worried about what happens after, once we expose Marcus. Once this investigation is over, what happens to me?" "You keep your job," Ethan said like it was obvious. "You've proven yourself invaluable. Why would anything change?" "Because it always does." Olivia stood, too restless to sit still. "At Hartwell, after the fraud was exposed, they thanked me for coming forward, and then quietly pushed me out. Said my presence was disruptive to team morale, that clients were uncomfortable working with someone who'd accused an executive." She wrapped her arms around herself. "What if the board does the same thing? Thanks me for the information, but decides I'm too much of a liability to keep around?" Ethan was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood and moved to where she was staring out the window at Seattle's evening skyline. "That won't happen here," he said quietly. "I won't let it." "You can't promise that, if the board decides." "I'm the majority shareholder," Ethan interrupted. "I built this company from nothing, and I control 51% of voting shares. If the board has a problem with you staying, they can take it up with me, and I promise you, Olivia, they'll lose that argument." Olivia turned to look at him, searching his face for signs of false reassurance. But Ethan's expression was dead serious, almost fierce. "Why?" she asked. "Why fight for me? Why? You barely know me." "I know enough," Ethan replied. "I know you risked everything to do the right thing. Twice I know you're brilliant at financial analysis, but humble enough to restart your career in a different field when that was taken from you. I know you work harder than anyone else here and you never complain. And you've been carrying the weight of this secret alone for almost a year, because you were too scared to trust anyone." He stepped closer, and Olivia's breath caught. "I know you hide granola bars in your desk drawer because you forget to eat lunch," Ethan continued, his voice softer. "I know you're allergic to lavender but won't tell people because you don't want to be difficult. I know you read mystery novels on your phone during your commute, and that you're terrified of thunderstorms but pretend you're not." "How do you know all that?" Olivia whispered. "Because I pay attention." Ethan's hand came up, hovering near her face but not quite touching. "Because you matter. Olivia, to this company, yes, but also to me. And I need you to understand that I'm not going to let anyone push you out. Not the board, not Marcus's allies, not anyone." "Ethan," Olivia's voice broke on his name. "This is complicated. We work together. You're my boss, and there are rules." "I know," Ethan said, but he didn't step back. "And I'm not asking you for anything you're not ready to give. I just need you to know where I stand so you're not worried about what happens after." Before Olivia could respond, her phone buzzed loudly on Ethan's desk. They both jumped, the moment breaking. Olivia crossed to check the notification, an email from Jennifer. "She found something," Olivia said, scanning the message. "One of Marcus's shell companies just made a large transfer. She thinks he might be preparing to run." Ethan was immediately all business. The personal conversation shelved. "How large?" "500,000 to an account in the Cayman Islands." Olivia's hands shook slightly as she pulled up the details Jennifer had sent. "If he's moving money offshore, we might be running out of time." "Then we move faster." Ethan was already reaching for his phone. "I'm calling an emergency board meeting for Monday morning. We present everything we have, and we vote to terminate Marcus immediately." "Monday is 3 days away," Olivia protested. "What if he transfers more? What if he disappears?" "He won't." Ethan's voice was grimly certain. "I'm going to have security flag his access card. If he tries to enter the building over the weekend, we'll know. And I'm asking Jennifer to file for a temporary restraining order on all corporate accounts he controls." "Can she do that without tipping him off?" "She's about to find out." Ethan was already dialing. "Start pulling together the presentation for Monday. I want every piece of evidence organized, every transaction documented, every question anticipated. We're going to bury him, Olivia. He's not getting away with this." The weekend passed in a blur of preparation. Olivia worked from home, building the presentation that would expose Marcus's fraud to the board. Ethan called every few hours with updates, questions, and what she eventually realized were excuses to check on her. "Have you eaten?" he'd ask. Or, "Did you sleep at all last night?" Or simply, "How are you holding up?" It was strange being cared for like this. Olivia had spent so long being self-sufficient, not allowing herself to need anyone, that Ethan's concern felt both foreign and deeply comforting. On Sunday evening, her phone rang. Ethan's name on the screen. "We have a problem," he said without preamble. "Marcus requested an emergency meeting with me tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. before the board meeting. He says it's urgent." Olivia's stomach dropped. "He knows." "We don't know that," Ethan said, but he didn't sound convinced. "It could be coincidence. He might want to discuss the quarterly reports or—" "Ethan, he's the CFO. He doesn't need emergency meetings to discuss quarterly reports." Olivia paced her small living room. "Somehow he found out we're investigating. Maybe he noticed the account restrictions, or someone tipped him off, or he's paranoid because he's guilty and seeing threats everywhere," Ethan interrupted calmly. "Olivia, breathe. We're not changing the plan. I'll take the meeting with Marcus. I'll listen to whatever he has to say. And then we're proceeding with the board presentation at 11. Nothing changes. What if he accuses me?" The fear that had been lurking since Ethan found the manila folder finally erupted. "What if he somehow knows I've been investigating him, and he turns it around, makes me look like the criminal again?" "Olivia," Ethan's voice cut through her spiraling panic. "I need you to listen to me. That's not going to happen. I have your back. Jennifer has your back. We have documentation. We have legal counsel, and we have the truth. Marcus can't spin his way out of this." "He doesn't have to spin out of it," Olivia said, her voice breaking. "He just has to make me look unstable." Vindictive, like I have a history of making false accusations, and I do, Ethan. I have that history, Hartwell made sure of it. Silence on the other end, then, "I'm coming over." "What? No, it's fine. I'm fine." "You're not fine, and I'm not leaving you alone right now." Ethan's voice was gentle but immovable. "Text me your address. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Ethan, it's 9 o'clock on a Sunday night. 18 minutes if traffic's good. Address, Olivia, now." She found herself texting it before she could think better of it, then spent the next 20 minutes frantically tidying her apartment. Which was ridiculous because Ethan was her boss, and this wasn't a date, and she shouldn't care what he thought of her small one-bedroom with its thrift store furniture and walls covered in cheap art prints. The knock came at exactly 23 minutes. Olivia opened the door to find Ethan in jeans and a fitted black t-shirt, the most casual she'd ever seen him, holding a bag from her favorite Thai restaurant. "How did you know?" "You mentioned it once," Ethan said, stepping inside. 3 weeks ago when Jennifer brought terrible sandwiches to a meeting, and you said you wished we'd ordered from Bangkok Nights instead. I have an excellent memory." Olivia felt something warm and dangerous unfurl in her chest. "You remember my favorite restaurant from one comment 3 weeks ago." "I remember everything you say," Ethan replied simply, setting the bag on her small kitchen counter. "Have you eaten today?" "I had coffee." "Coffee isn't food." Ethan started unpacking containers. "Pad Thai, spring rolls, and mango sticky rice." "Sit, eat, then we're going to talk about tomorrow." Olivia wanted to argue, but the smell of the food made her realize how hungry she actually was. She sat at her tiny kitchen table while Ethan served them both. The domesticity of it strange and lovely. "I'm scared," she admitted quietly, watching him move around her kitchen like he belonged there. "I'm terrified that tomorrow is going to end with me losing everything again. My job, my reputation, my life here. And this time it'll be worse because—" She stopped, not ready to finish that sentence. "Because what?" Ethan sat across from her, his expression open, patient. "Because this time I have more to lose," Olivia whispered. "Last time I was already alone. I'd sacrificed friendships for that job. Isolated myself, trying to be perfect. So when it all fell apart, I was used to being alone. But now—" Her eyes burned. "Now I have people I care about. Mrs. Chen at the coffee shop, who always remembers my order. My co-worker Jennifer, who invited me to her daughter's birthday party. You," she met his eyes. "And losing all of that will hurt so much more than last time." Ethan reached across the table and took her hand. "You're not going to lose any of that, especially not me. Do you understand? Whatever happens tomorrow, whatever Marcus tries, you're not alone in this. I'm right beside you. Every step." "Why?" Olivia asked, her voice barely audible. "Why do you care so much? Is it guilt, responsibility, because I work for you, because you don't owe me?" "It's not guilt," Ethan interrupted. "And it's not responsibility, it's—" He stopped, something vulnerable and fierce crossing his face. "It's because somewhere between finding that manila folder and working alongside you for 3 weeks, I fell in love with you." Olivia's breath stopped. "What?" "I love you," Ethan repeated, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. "Your courage, your brilliance, the way you care so deeply about doing the right thing even when it costs you everything. The way you hide granola bars and read mystery novels and pretend you're not scared of thunder. I love all of it. All of you." "Ethan, I'm a mess," Olivia protested weakly. "I'm damaged and paranoid and carrying trauma from—" "You're not damaged," Ethan said firmly. "You're hurt, there's a difference. And you're healing, Olivia. I've watched you get stronger every day, watched you trust me, trust Jennifer. Start to believe that maybe this time things could be different." "But we work together," Olivia said, grasping for logical objections even as her heart raced. "There are policies and it would be complicated." "And—" "I don't care about complicated." Ethan's voice was rough with emotion. "I've spent 12 years building this company, sacrificing everything personal for professional success. I watched my sister die while I was in a board meeting I couldn't leave. I missed her last months because I was always working. Always too busy. Always putting the company first, and when she was gone, I realized I'd traded everything that mattered for success, that felt hollow without anyone to share it with." He stood, moving around the table to crouch beside Olivia's chair, his hands framing her face. "I don't want to miss this," he said softly. Miss you miss us because I'm scared too, Olivia. I'm terrified that if I wait until the right time, or until things are less complicated, I'll lose you, that you'll walk away thinking you're protecting me from your past, or protecting yourself from getting hurt again. So I'm telling you now, before tomorrow, before whatever happens with Marcus, I love you and I want to be with you, complications and all. Olivia's tears finally spilled over. What if I can't do this? What if I'm too broken, too scared? Then we'll figure it out together, Ethan said simply. At whatever pace you need, with whatever boundaries make you feel safe. I'm not going anywhere, Olivia. So you can take all the time you need to believe that. Olivia looked at him. This man who'd believed her when no one else had, who'd fought beside her when he could have just fired her, who somehow saw past her defenses to the person she was trying so hard to be. I love you too, she whispered. I didn't want to, I tried not to, but I do, I love you. Ethan's smile was brilliant. He stood, pulling her up with him, and kissed her with a gentleness that made her heart ache. There was no demand in it, no pressure, just affection and promise and the patient certainty of someone willing to wait as long as it took. When they pulled apart, Olivia felt steadier than she had in days. Tomorrow, she said, we face Marcus tomorrow together. Together, Ethan agreed. And whatever happens, we'll handle it because you're not alone anymore, Olivia. You never have to be alone again. And for the first time since finding that initial evidence of fraud 11 months ago, Olivia let herself believe it might actually be true. Monday morning arrived cold and grey, matching Olivia's anxiety. She dressed carefully in her most professional suit, navy blue, conservative, the kind of outfit that said, trustworthy analyst, rather than woman who committed corporate espionage. Ethan had texted at 6 a.m. Ready for this? Meet me at the office at 8:30, we go in together. Olivia arrived at 8:25, clutching her laptop bag and the backup copies of every piece of evidence they'd compiled. Ethan was waiting in the lobby, also in a suit, his expression serious but calm. How are you? He asked quietly, falling into step beside her as they headed for the elevators. Terrified, Olivia admitted. You? Same, but we're doing this anyway. His hand brushed against hers briefly, reassurance without the public display that would raise questions. Marcus is already here. Security logged him in at 7:30. He's waiting in my office. Olivia's stomach churned. Maybe I should wait somewhere else during your meeting if he sees me. He's going to see you at the board meeting anyway, Ethan pointed out. And I want you there for this conversation. You deserve to hear whatever justification he tries to give. Or accusation, Olivia said quietly. If he accuses you of anything, I shut it down immediately, Ethan replied as they reached the executive floor. Remember, we have the evidence, we have legal backing, and we have the truth. He has theft and lies. This ends today, Olivia. Marcus Reeves was standing at the window in Ethan's office when they entered, hands in his pockets, the picture of casual confidence. He was in his mid-50s, silver-haired and expensively dressed, with the kind of practiced charm that made people naturally trust him. It was that charm that had let him steal millions without anyone noticing. Ethan? Marcus turned, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. Then he noticed Olivia and his expression flickered. Surprise, then calculation. Ms. Chen, I didn't realize you'd be joining us. Olivia is my special assistant now, Ethan said smoothly, closing the door. She's involved in most of my high-level meetings. Please sit. Marcus hesitated, his gaze moving between them with obvious suspicion. But he sat in one of the chairs facing Ethan's desk. Olivia took the other, her heart hammering. So, Ethan said, settling behind his desk with that commanding presence that made people instinctively defer to him. You said this was urgent. What's going on? Marcus was quiet for a moment, his expression carefully neutral. Then, I'm resigning effective immediately. The words fell like a bomb. Olivia's breath caught, but Ethan's expression didn't change. I see, Ethan said calmly. That's sudden. May I ask why? Family reasons. Marcus's smile was practiced, easy. My wife has been after me to retire for years, and with our daughter's wedding coming up in the spring, it seems like the right time I wanted to tell you in person, before submitting formal notice. How considerate, Ethan replied, his tone unreadable. And the timing has nothing to do with the fact that you've stolen approximately $2.3 million from this company over the past 3 years. The room went silent. Marcus's expression froze. then carefully rearranged itself into confused concern. "I'm sorry, what? You heard me." Ethan leaned back in his chair, completely relaxed. "Corporate fraud, embezzlement, wire fraud, falsifying financial documents. Should I continue?" "This is absurd." Marcus stood, his voice sharp with manufactured outrage. "I don't know where you're getting this information, but I assure you—" "Sit down, Marcus." Ethan's voice was quiet but lethal. "We're not done." Something in his tone made Marcus slowly sink back into his chair. "We've been investigating you for 3 weeks," Ethan continued. "We have documentation of every fraudulent transaction, every falsified expense report, every wire transfer to your shell companies. We have bank statements, email evidence, and a money trail that leads directly to you. So let's skip the denial phase and move straight to you explaining why you thought you could steal from me." Marcus's face had gone pale. His eyes darted to Olivia, and she watched understanding dawn. "It was her, wasn't it?" His voice was cold now, the charm dropping away. "She's been feeding you lies about me, Ethan. I don't know what she's told you, but Olivia Chen has a history of making false accusations against superiors. She was fired from her last position for exactly this kind of—" "Careful," Ethan interrupted, his voice dropping to something dangerous. "Very careful how you finish that sentence." "I'm simply stating facts," Marcus continued, but there was desperation creeping into his voice now. "She accused her previous supervisor of fraud, was proven wrong, and was terminated. Now she's doing the same thing here. Probably because I rejected her budget proposal last quarter, and she's looking for revenge." "Enough," Ethan stood, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop. "Let me be very clear about something, Marcus. The evidence against you was obtained through proper legal channels by our external counsel. Olivia's initial observations pointed us in the right direction. Yes, but everything we're presenting to the board today is documented, verified, and admissible. Your attempt to discredit her isn't going to work." "The board will never believe—" Marcus started. "The board will believe the $2 million in missing funds," Ethan interrupted. "They'll believe the forensic accounting report. They'll believe the federal investigators who are already building a criminal case. What they won't believe is you, Marcus, not anymore." Marcus's composure finally cracked. "You self-righteous bastard, you think you're so perfect, so ethical. But where were you when I was working 80-hour weeks keeping this company afloat during the recession? Where were you when my salary got frozen for 3 years while you gave yourself bonuses? I earned that money." "You stole it," Olivia heard herself say, surprising everyone, including herself. "You stole from employees who trusted you, from investors who believed in this company. From Ethan, who gave you a position of responsibility you betrayed. You don't get to justify that by claiming you were underappreciated." Marcus turned his fury on her. "You have no idea what you're talking about. You're a junior analyst playing detective, and you're going to regret—" "Is that a threat?" Ethan's voice was deadly quiet. "Because if you're threatening Olivia, we're moving past fraud charges into witness intimidation." Marcus seemed to realize how badly he'd miscalculated. His expression shifted again, this time to something like pleading. "Ethan, we've worked together for 8 years. We built this company together. Don't throw that away over—" "Over millions in theft," Ethan finished. "Over betraying everything this company stands for, Marcus. You threw away our relationship the moment you decided stealing was acceptable. I'm just cleaning up the mess you made." A knock at the door interrupted them. Jennifer Walsh entered, followed by 2 men in dark suits that screamed federal agents. "Mr. Castellano, Miss Chen." Jennifer's expression was professionally neutral. "These are Special Agents Morrison and Chen from the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. They have some questions for Mr. Reeves." Marcus went grey. "You called the FBI." "They called us," Jennifer corrected. "Apparently your Cayman Islands transfer triggered some red flags. They've been investigating for the past week." The next hour passed in a blur. Marcus was read his rights, questioned, and ultimately escorted from the building in handcuffs. Quietly, through the loading dock, to avoid creating a scene, Olivia watched from Ethan's office window as the federal vehicle drove away, carrying with it the man who'd almost succeeded in destroying another company through fraud. "It's over," Ethan said quietly, standing beside her. "He's gone. The board meeting. Already cancelled. Jennifer's notifying them individually. With federal charges pending, there's no point in our internal presentation." Ethan turned to face her. You did it, Olivia. You stopped him. We stopped him, Olivia corrected. But she was shaking with released adrenaline. I can't believe it's actually over. Well, not entirely over. There's going to be depositions. Probably a trial. Media attention. Ethan stopped at Olivia's expression. But the hard part is done. Marcus can't hurt you or this company anymore. Olivia felt tears threatening. He tried to discredit me just like at Hartwell. Said I had a history of false accusations. And I shut him down immediately, Ethan reminded her gently. Because I know the truth, Olivia. Jennifer knows it, the FBI knows it. Your past doesn't define you, your courage does. The tears finally spilled over. Ethan pulled her into his arms and Olivia let herself cry, for the fear she'd carried for 11 months, for the vindication she'd stopped believing was possible, for the relief of being believed instead of dismissed. What happens now? She asked, finally pulling back. To me, I mean, my position was temporary for the investigation. About that, Ethan guided her to sit on the sofa in his office. I have a proposition. We need a new CFO, obviously, but more than that, we need someone overseeing our financial integrity, not just managing money, but ensuring everything is ethical, documented, above board. A chief compliance officer position. Olivia's eyes widened. Ethan, I don't have the credentials for that kind of... You have exactly the credentials, Ethan interrupted. You have the financial analysis skills, the ethical backbone and the proven ability to identify fraud. Plus, you've earned my complete trust, which is not something I give lightly. He paused. The salary would be competitive with a C-suite position. You'd have your own staff, your own budget, complete autonomy to investigate anything that seemed questionable, and you'd be reporting directly to me. That last part seems like a conflict of interest, Olivia said, but she was smiling through her tears. Given that what are we exactly? Complicated, Ethan said, echoing her words from the previous night. But figuring it out together, if you're willing. Olivia thought about the past 3 weeks, working alongside Ethan, learning to trust him, watching him fight for her without hesitation. She thought about the manila folder she'd hidden for 11 months, too scared to act. She thought about the woman she'd been at Hartwell, destroyed for doing the right thing, and the woman she'd become since. Stronger, more certain, no longer willing to stay silent. I'm willing, she said softly. The job, us, all of it. I'm willing to try. Ethan's smile was brilliant. Good, because I have plans for you, Olivia Chen, starting with lunch that isn't takeout in the office. Scandalous, Olivia teased. The CEO taking his chief compliance officer to lunch, people will talk. Let them, Ethan replied, standing and offering his hand. I'm done hiding things that matter. They walked out of his office together, past Grace, who was already fielding calls about Marcus's departure, past curious employees who would soon hear the official story of fraud discovered and justice served. Word would spread about Olivia's role in exposing Marcus, and there would be questions, speculation, maybe even resentment from those who'd liked the charming CFO. But this time was different. This time, Olivia had someone who believed her, supported her, stood beside her when things got hard. This time, she wasn't alone. 6 months later, Olivia stood in her new office, larger than Ethan's, with a view that overlooked Puget Sound and a team of 3 analysts who reported to her. The placard on her door read, Dr. Olivia Chen, Chief Compliance Officer. The doctorate she'd earned online during her unemployed years finally being put to use. Marcus's trial had ended in conviction on all counts. He'd been sentenced to 8 years in federal prison and ordered to repay every cent he'd stolen. The media coverage had been extensive, but this time Olivia's name had appeared as the analyst who bravely exposed corporate fraud, not the woman who made false accusations. Hartwell Financial had even reached out to apologize and offer her old position back. Once they'd seen the news coverage, Olivia had declined with immense satisfaction. Busy, Ethan's voice came from her doorway, and Olivia looked up with a smile. Always. This company has surprisingly complicated ethics questions. She gestured to her desk, covered in reports. Did you know the marketing team wants to use customer data in ways that are technically legal but morally questionable? I'm writing a policy revision. Of course you are. Ethan crossed to her desk, perching on the edge in a way that would have seemed unprofessional if they weren't both well aware that the entire company knew about their relationship by now. I actually came to kidnap you for dinner. You've been here since 6 this morning. There's a lot to do. There's always a lot to do, Ethan interrupted gently. But I made reservations at that Italian place you love, and I'm not letting you work through dinner again. Olivia wanted to argue, but the truth was she was exhausted and hungry, and the idea of an evening with Ethan sounded perfect. Fine, but I'm bringing the marketing data policy home to review. Absolutely not, Ethan said, but he was smiling. You're taking an actual evening off doctor's orders. You're not a doctor. CEO's orders then, which is almost the same thing. Olivia laughed, saving her work and shutting down her computer. You're very bossy, you know that. You love it, Ethan replied, helping her into her coat. And the thing was, Olivia did. She loved his certainty, his support, the way he pushed her to take care of herself, while respecting her need for independence. She loved the life they were building together, complicated and imperfect but honest. As they walked to the elevator, Olivia thought about the manila folder that had started everything. Hidden in her desk drawer for 11 months, she'd kept it as a reminder. Not of fear, but of the moment she'd decided to stop hiding, to trust someone, to fight for what was right, even when it terrified her. What are you thinking about? Ethan asked as the elevator descended. About how glad I am that you found that folder, Olivia said honestly. Even though I was terrified at the time, even though I thought it would destroy everything, it actually saved me. You saved yourself, Ethan corrected. I just gave you a reason to stop hiding. Olivia laced her fingers through his. We saved each other then. Deal, Ethan agreed, and kissed her temple as the elevator doors opened to the lobby. They walked out into the Seattle evening, past the security desk where the guard nodded respectfully, past the reception area where the night crew was starting their shifts. Outside, the city stretched before them, full of possibility, full of future, full of all the things Olivia had stopped letting herself imagine. For the first time in years, she felt not just safe but free. Free to be honest, to be vulnerable, to be loved exactly as she was, complicated past, determined present, and uncertain but hopeful future. And it had all started with a manila folder hidden in a desk drawer, waiting to be found by the right person at the right time. Sometimes, Olivia thought, the secrets we keep are really just truths waiting for someone brave enough to believe them. And she'd found someone who believed, not just in her truth, but in her, that, more than anything, was worth every risk she'd taken to get here.